Could I call the meeting to order and ask trustees to take their seats? Okay. Call the meeting to order and ask you to stand with us for the national anthem.
That we are here today
on the traditional territory
of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation.
Nous tenons à reconnaître que
nous sommes sur le territoire traditionnel
des Mississaugas de la Première Nation de New Credit.
Thank you. Please be seated. That's your job over the summer. So I do have very little, but a couple of changes or additions to the agenda. 6.1A is an addendum to our retirement section. And 7.2, the request to delegate by Mr. Kadar has been withdrawn. Those are all the changes I have. Podium speaker. I have somebody on my, I don't know why, but that's okay. I'll clean that up. Before I ask for approval of the agenda as amended, I would like to address 9.5 in the agenda, which is a notice of motion from Trustee Kay McDonald regarding the hiring of a dedicated emergency pool of teachers to staff schools in downtown Brampton that have chronic low fill rates. I've done some work with staff on this motion, and I have spoken with Trustee McDonald, and it is my understanding that when an occasional teacher is newly hired to the board, they can be placed by the board at a specific location for their first 15 days, as this is their evaluation period. Once they've passed their evaluation, we can no longer restrict them to a location under the collective agreement Article 4.04. It specifically states in part that upon successful conclusion of the first evaluation, the occasional teacher shall be eligible to accept assignments throughout the system. This means that after their first 15 days, we can no longer direct them to a specific school. It is up to them at that point to choose where they accept occasional teaching opportunities. As such, this motion cannot be enforced by the staff, and I would ask that Trustee McDonald withdraw the motion. Trustee McDonald.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Can you hear me?
No. Is your mic on?
Yeah.
Like, is it? I can't see the light, so. Okay, so try again,
Hello?
Ray will increase the volume, so,
Hello? Hello?
yep,
Okay, thank you.
there you go.
Through you, Chair, reluctantly, I will withdraw this motion. If the board would indulge me for another motion asking for a report that, with basically outlining how you intend to address the issues that this motion is trying to address. Specifically, the fact that under the Education Act, we have a legal obligation to provide 300 minutes per day of instructional time, where with these chronic field rate problems, kids are not receiving their legal instruction time, as well as how we, because in doing my research, how we're going to address some of the issues like training for occasional teachers. Currently, I understand the onus is mainly on the union group in terms of accessing training for the occasional teachers. So if I could get a sort of report on how that works, how in terms of the kids that have high special needs, how we intend to address the fact that the kids really don't benefit when they have this high turnover of staff, and addressing issues, for example, then of VP allocations for high-risk schools, if I could get things like that included in the report.
Okay, could I simplify the request and say I don't believe it needs a motion? I believe you're looking for a report to accomplish what you intended this motion to do. And I would ask if you agree that this motion should go to our Human Resources Committee. I think we have a good opportunity to discuss it there before it comes back to the board, if you're in agreement.
Yeah,
And then I would ask you to submit to the director the questions or subjects that you would like that report to cover.
Okay, sure.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Is the board in agreement? So that will happen, yes, just a minute. I think the first HR committee, I believe, is in October. Okay? Trustee McDonald? Yes. Okay. Trustee Singh?
Well, I just have a procedural. How would that be recorded in the minutes or the agenda? Like,
Well,
to
Trustee McDonald has withdrawn her motion before the agenda was approved, so that's in order. And instead of that, she has asked for a report. Yes, yeah. I don't think it requires a motion. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so as amended agenda, would someone like to move and second it? Trustee B. McDonald, seconded by Trustee Green. All those in favor? Carried. All right, now we'll move on to, before we do that, I do want to introduce or reintroduce Sean Moynihan, who is in the audience. Hello, Sean. And Sean, we have the good fortune that Sean has been with the ministry for, I don't know how long, Sean, but a few years, couple years, 3 years, whatever. But Sean is coming back to Peel, and that is good news for Peel. And so I look forward, we look forward to working with Sean as the superintendent of special education support services. So congratulations, Sean. So that's good news. Second good news is the presentations that we have this evening, and ones that I am absolutely delighted, and the other one that I know that the board loves to hear from our students. And I know that many of our trustees took part in the Excellence in Eloquence speech. And so this speech competition, and this has been taking place in our schools since about the year 2000. And Darwin Chen and Michael Diz, they are here tonight. Please stand up, Michael and Darwin. There they are. Congratulations. They came up with the idea of reviving a board-wide speech competition to help celebrate the students who possessed effective speaking skills. A long time ago, when the wheel was invented, I remember the speech competitions when I was in public school. And I honestly remember the subjects that I chose to speak about, and that's pretty impactful. If you think about that, you know, trying to remember what day it is hard enough, but remembering your speech when you were 10 years old is pretty remarkable. So when they revived this, they called it the tournament, Excellence in Eloquence. And with their committee of volunteer teachers, they've run a very successful tournament. This year marks the 17th anniversary of this very successful event. The members of the Excellence in Eloquence Committee are Darwin Chan and Michael Diz, Darcy Windover, Lynn Hope, Naima Malik, Angela Pretorius, Sarah Shaw, Ann Shuttleworth, Naomi Ventura, Tina Woods, Christine Byrne Martin, Brian Butler, Jennifer Black, Matt Ing, Richard Greenwood, Julie Young. I was doing really well till I got to Julie Young. Sarah Topoulos, Amy Cameron, Linda McCallan, Sophie Petos, Saba Khan, Michelle Muir, Rita Thapar Gill, and Nalina Ferreira. And if you're here and I butchered your name, I apologize, but would you stand up if any of you are here? Here we go. Thank you. This tournament is really quite wonderful, and we are all so happy because I hear trustees talking about I'm judging tonight. And it is not, one more night. It is, I can't wait to hear these students and some of the interests that they bring forward. So it is a wonderful addition to the oral communication section of the curriculum. Their sponsors include the Dale Carnegie Institute, the Rotary Club, and Toastmasters International. Approximately 100 schools participated in this competition. The winning competitors get a medal and a trophy and a plaque for their school. They also get the privilege, special privilege, of presenting their speeches to the director and the trustees at this board. They also learn that skill of argument and arguing and putting forward a position. And that is always helpful when you're negotiating with your parents. So, and it is something that they will find useful for most of their life, probably. Anyway, thank you to all of you who volunteer your time and your expertise in organizing this tournament. I think it is, as I said, a wonderful addition to our curriculum. And so tonight we have our winners. And from the junior division, we have Priyanka Naranthiran. Got it. From Bristol Road Middle School. So, Priyanka, where are you? There you are. First of all, congratulations. Take your time. Be comfortable. Make sure that mic is at the proper level, and I'm sure that someone will help you with that if need be. Superintendent Logue is going to make sure that works.
Testing.
All right. He's going to come down and help you. Let's.
That's not too.
Test. I still remember the day of when I first heard about Malala. A young girl who was shot in the head. All because she wanted to go to school. Malala Yousafzai was 15 years old when she was shot. Her entire life, she was told that she was to stay home. She wouldn't go to school. She wouldn't get a job when she was older. No. Why was this? Because Malala was a girl in Pakistan, and that's just how it was. Today, I'm here to speak to you about an issue that has been going on for hundreds of years. Gender inequality. Gender inequality is the concept of men and women not being treated equally. One gender is viewed as superior, while the other is often portrayed as inferior. Or one gender will be given more opportunities and treated more favorably than the other. Examples of gender inequality can vary from stereotypes that just chip away at you to unjust rules and regulations that can almost determine your entire life. You're told to play a part. You're told to act a certain way. You're told to completely disregard all of your feelings and all of your emotions, all so that you can live up to someone else's expectations on what you should be based on your gender. You're like a doll. Every day you get up, you put on your fake smile, and then you go into the world, playing the role of what you were expected to play your entire life, where the last person you're allowed to listen to is yourself. This is the story for hundreds of millions of people all around the world who are impacted by this issue. Regardless of if you are a girl or a boy, gender inequality impacts us all. Now, you've heard Malala's story in Pakistan, but that's not the only country that has to go through gender inequality. In some parts of India, once a girl turns 12 or 13, she'll be pulled out of school and put up for marriage. Almost as if that's all she's worth in life. In a developed country like Canada, we also experience gender inequality, but mostly in the form of sexual discrimination, wage gap, among others. In 2017, the Canadian Women's Foundation said that for every dollar a man makes, a woman can make 73 cents. Now, after this, you may be thinking that gender inequality only affects women, but that's not true. Imagine seeing a boy doing what society might call a girl thing, like wearing a dress or even playing with a doll. We stare, we laugh, but ultimately we judge. Society has their own idea of what both boys and girls should behave like, but it's not fair. Now that you've learned the many ways that gender inequality impacts us, what can you do to help? When gender inequality is in season, almost everyone will be talking about it, but change rarely ever occurs. And when it's not in season, what do? We pretend like it's not even an issue. We don't even address the fact that there are real people out there who have to go through this horrendous issue on a day-to-day basis. We don't speak up against this. We don't choose action. even when there are simple things that can be done to help. There are 3 things that society needs to work on. Number 1, whenever we see examples of gender inequality, we have to speak up because our voices matter. Number 2, if somebody ever decides to underestimate you because of your gender, don't even pay attention to them because you know that your gender doesn't define who you are as a person. You go beyond just a label. And number 3, we have to let go of these stereotypes. Like, we don't want other people's stereotypes and biases limiting our lives. Don't let your stereotypes and biases limit other people's lives. Like Mahatma Gandhi said, we have to be the change we want to see in our world. So, my question to you is, how are you going to be that change? Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. If you, excellent, and I think we would all agree with everything that you've said, and something that this board works very hard to achieve, by the way. If you could just stay close, but sit down, if you would, and then I'm going to ask Ariz Banji, who is the winner of the intermediate division, and then Priyanka, I will ask you both back up. The board has a little presentation, and I'd like to just congratulate you a little further. So, Ariz, it's all yours.
Thank you. I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Thomas Edison. If you have never failed, you have never tried anything new. Good evening, everyone. I am convinced that there is no such thing as an overnight success. It's a fallacy, a myth to believe that overnight someone can become famous and gain lots of success. There was once a lady who went to the market and saw Picasso. She said to Picasso, "Picasso, will you draw me a portrait?" He said, "Sure, I'll draw you a portrait." He reached out for a pen and paper, and in 30 seconds sketched an amazing portrait of the lady. Handing it back to her, he said, "That'll cost you $30,000. So the lady said, "Picasso, how can you charge me $30,000 for a drawing it took you only 30 seconds to draw?" Picasso replied, "Sure, it took me 30 seconds to draw this, but it took me 30 years to be able to do that in 30 seconds." When you look up the definition of failure in the English dictionary, it's defined by 3 words: lack of success. But that means we don't value learning, we don't value growth. It means we don't value experience and struggle. Our obsession with winning means that we are actually letting go of all of that which we could be learning at every single point. If you have never failed, you have never tried anything new. Have you ever failed at anything? Personally, I have been one of those individuals who has always been very hard on themselves. In fact, I used to be one of those individuals who would literally get upset and even at times shed a few tears when I failed at things. I have personally given myself permission to fail, and I deal with failures on a regular basis, whether it's losing a chess game to perhaps not getting all the math questions right, or even losing a game of table tennis to my sister. These failures or mishaps are making me even more determined to work even harder. And I must admit, I learn more from the mistakes I make and the losses than the wins. A university professor started off his class by taking out of his pocket a $50 bill. He asked his class, "Who would like this $50 bill?" Of course, all of the students raised their hands. like this $50 bill? Again, all the students raised their hands. So he crumpled the bill into a ball and asked who would like this $50 bill. Still, all of the students raised their hands. He finally threw the bill onto the ground. He stomped on it with his foot. He picked it up, and he asked, who would like this $50 bill? Still, all of his students raised their hands. He then said to his class, today, you have learned an important lesson. No matter how many times I crumpled or stomped on this $50 bill, it's still worth $50. The same way the $50 bill held its value, so do you. No matter how many times life will crumple you, life will stomp on you, life will squeeze you, you still will retain that spark within you, the knowledge, the gift, the talent that each one of us have. That spark can never be taken away. So give yourself permission to fail and watch the sparks ignite. And always remember, if you have never failed, you have never tried anything new. Thank you.
Thank you. Rees and Priyanka, we enjoyed your presentations very much. You can tell how professional and how skilled you've become in trying to get your point across, and I think you both did extremely well. I have a feeling that you might have some support here tonight, and so if you have parents or relatives or those little siblings or whatever, if you would please stand up so we can recognize you, the parents and families, please. Thank you. That's terrific, and just be forewarned that this is just the beginning. And these students are going to become extremely skilled in the art of debate. I can just feel it. Principals, teachers from, and I meant to say that Reese is from Tompkin Road Middle School, and so I know that they're very proud. So are there any teachers or principals here that we can recognize and thank? Michael's pointing. Stand up, Cheryl. Thank you. Thank you very much for encouraging. We, the director and I, have just a little token of our appreciation for your hard work on behalf of the trustees and the senior administration, and hopefully it will encourage you to continue your wonderful skills in oral presentations. So we're going to come to you. Okay, thank you very much for coming tonight and entertaining us with with all of your skills and expertise. It's fun, and school should be fun, so thank you. Our second, oh, they're in my pocket, can't see. Our second presentation is particularly important, significant. This board has, pardon? Historical, okay. This board, you have a fan right there. This board has enjoyed a partnership or a relationship with a wonderful group of volunteers. And the Friends of the Britannia Schoolhouse this year are celebrating 25 years of volunteer service. And so it is absolutely our pleasure to celebrate and to recognize the amazing accomplishments and the dedication that you have shown over the years for our beautiful schoolhouse. I welcome the friends who have joined us here this evening. In addition to these volunteers, there are many others who help with special events and other activities throughout the year. Over the years, there have been many former friends who have contributed so much of their time and effort to the schoolhouse, some of whom have passed away, unfortunately, but we also recognize and thank them for their dedication. Friends of the Schoolhouse was first organized in September 1992. And it was Eva Ardeel, and Eva is with us this evening, a former school mistress who rallied the people to form the Friends of the Schoolhouse in response to the pending closure of the Field Centers program. Eva is still an active member with the Friends. The Schoolhouse and the Field Center programs provide critical outdoor and experiential learning opportunities for more than 35,000 students each year. Students visit the schoolhouse and experience what a one-room schoolhouse which existed in rural Ontario until the 1960s. This could not be possible without the many volunteers who donate hundreds of hours and money to the old Britannia Schoolhouse. Trustees, if you haven't made your contribution to the Friends, don't forget to do that. That's just a paid advertisement. Don't forget to do that before the end of June. They do rely on our support. In 1974, the schoolhouse was designated under the Heritage Act by the City of Mississauga. The history of the schoolhouse and the property it sits on has been an exceptional learning tool for many years. Although the process has been started for the Britannia Farm Refresh, we look forward to the Britannia Schoolhouse playing a very important role, an anchor, if you will, for student learning for the years to come. I remember visiting the schoolhouse, and you're very gracious in inviting the board on an annual basis, and so I looked up the log to see if my two children, who are now in their late 30s, if they, I knew they went, but I wanted to know if they were registered. And sure enough, there they were. Can't remember the year exactly, but there they were, registered in the log. And honestly, that has to be about at least 30 years ago. So it is extremely historical. Before we present a plaque of appreciation, I would like to promote the Friends' annual Strawberry Social, and that is being held tomorrow on June 20th here at the board office, and it's beginning at 11:30. So I would encourage everybody here, of course, if you work in the board office, that's easy, and for the trustees, if you can arrange your schedules to be around 11:30, I know that the Friends would appreciate it, and the food's pretty good too. So now on behalf of the Board of Trustees, we'd like to present the volunteers with a small token of appreciation which will be installed in the atrium of the board office for the last 25 years, and I hope for the next 25, of your personal contributions and dedication. We sincerely thank you. So the director and I, as Margaret, I neglected to ask you to stand, those that are representing the Friends of the Schoolhouse, because I'm not sure that everybody knows you. And so if you would all stand, and we would like to recognize you once again. Thank you. And so the plaque is lovely, but I'm sorry, but I have to take it back. It isn't quite finished yet. I believe it needs to be shellacked or put something over it, but more importantly, we had it here this evening. So I know Director Carla Pereira is at the back, and so could I ask you, Director Pereira, to claim it back? And we promise that we will hang it, and we invite you all to come and see it in the atrium. Thank you very much for coming this evening. Okay. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, can we move to Section 3, which are the minutes of the Special Education Advisory Committee, May 15th. 3.2 is the Physical Planning and Building Committee of June 4th. 3.3 is the regular meeting of the board, June 5th. They're all here for receipt and approval. Moved by Trustee Andrews, seconded by Trustee Singh. Are there any comments, questions, corrections in any of those minutes? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, are there any written questions or notices of motion or petitions from trustees? Trustee Singh.
All right. So I have 3 written questions. And
Yes.
so first one is, what is our policy regarding Faith Heritage Months, and what do other school boards do? The second question is, the community of Castlemore, Humber West, Cottrell, and Airport is looking to attend a school closer to them. Are there any options? And the third question is, will the new school at the Vales of Humber come with air conditioning?
Okay. We will answer those. Are they urgent, Trustee Singh? Because as you know, the next time we meet is August, okay? Trustee K. McDonald.
Thank you. I have 6 questions, all pertaining to the same issue with regards to heat in the schools. Are there any plans to put AC systems in all Peel District School Board schools? Number 2, are there plans to have heat alert days, as some school buildings get unbearably hot and unsafe for students and staff? 3, what about health and safety? This past few days have been so hot that food is spoiling. My children are bringing home their food. And it smells. What arrangements are in place for safely storing food during very hot days? 5, why don't we see closed schools on very hot days? Why do we allow kids, especially kinders, to go out on very hot days or days that have a heat advisory? And the final question is, the Dufferin-Peel Catholic School Board canceled their track event because of weather concerns on Monday. Why didn't the Peel District School Board do so?
Thank you, and I'd like you to ask you to hand those in now. Again, we don't meet again till the end of August. Are they urgent questions, or can you single out a question or two that someone is waiting for, or can we discuss it in August?
Well, I guess the person would consider it urgent. They had already spoken to 2 individuals, and I guess they weren't happy with some of the responses, so they asked for it to be asked in public.
Okay, so I guess you'd have to provide that information to administration, so that when they can answer those questions, then we can either electronically give those to the board, and then you can answer your constituent. But again, it is summer break, and so I won't guarantee or promise that staff will have those ready in 2 weeks. But never fear, September can always be hot. So all of that is relevant to back to school as well.
Right, okay,
Right?
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other notices of motion or written questions or notices of motion? I see none. I would ask then that Trustee Williams has asked to speak to the board and has an announcement to make. Trustee Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight it's with mixed emotion that I'm making it public that I won't be seeking re-election in the upcoming election in October. After 21 years of service to this board, I truly believe it's time for me to vacate the seat and allow somebody else to take over. And I want to express my sincere gratitude to my community who have elected and re-elected me for 6 consecutive terms, amount to 21 years. It is truly a privilege and an honor for me to serve this board. Over the years, I've met some wonderful people. Great board of trustees, senior administration, teachers, principals across the system. And it's truly a pleasure working with them. I also have the opportunity to represent this board on the Ontario Public School Board Association Regional Council for 21 years, 14 years on the Board of Directors, and 2 years as Vice President of Enrollment. And it's truly an honor and a privilege to do that. I've had the opportunity to network and interact with some great people from across the province. And this board is standalone in terms of the recognition that it received from trustees across the province. It is the envy of all boards across the province. And I'm very proud to be a part of this board. I know over the years we have gone through some rough times and some good times. I recall when I came to the board, I think our enrollment was somewhere around 84,000 students. Now we're up to 155,000. Our budget at the time was a little over $600 million. Now we're close to $2 billion. So we have come a long way. Now, in terms of diversity within this board, 21 years ago when I came to the board, and we had our first retreat, and I believe Chair McDougall can attest to that, because both herself and Randy Wright over there, I always joke with Randy that we are the only one standing among trustees and senior staff members. We are the only one that was here when I got to the board. And I recall, Madam Chair, and you might recall, the first retreat we had, I made it clear that I visited my schools and I didn't like what I saw because the staff wasn't reflecting the diversity of this school. The board listened and changes begin to happen. In my ward itself, we have principal, vice principal, superintendent, that serve in that community, and they become contagious across the system. Mind, let me say that we have come a long way, and we still have some way to go. But we have to understand that changes doesn't really happen overnight. It's a process that is ongoing, and we'll eventually get to where we should be or we will be in the future. We have gone through some rough times. I recall when the Mike Harris government took over and the contingency that he put in place in terms of finance and so on. I recall in transportation, at one point, we had a deficit of $14 million. That's just in transportation alone. And I recall with the remediation of the portables. We had several portables that had to be remediated. And by the same token, we are building an average of 7 schools per year. And I want to commend Controller Wright for the job you and your team has done for this board during those difficult years. Now we are at a point where when we present our budget and put our budget together, we don't have to consider at risk, because most of those budgets in those days, we managed to balance them with risk. So we have come a long way. And we, as a board of trustees, we work together extremely well over the years, and it's my hope that we will continue to work together as a group of trustees in the best interest of the students that we serve. So tonight I want to, like I say, it's with mixed emotion that I'm making this announcement, because I've met so many wonderful people across the system. And I'm sure that I will certainly miss the camaraderie we share and the friendship. We are like a family outside of our own family, because there are times when we spend more time together than we spend at home. And I also want to thank my family, who are always supportive of me, my wife, who has been alone for several nights, and while we are at meeting, trying to figure out how best to do what we do. So tonight is not goodbye, because I will be around until the end of November. But I thought I would share this with you, knowing that I might not have the opportunity to share this with you before. But I know that the board is in good hands, and I do hope that we'll continue to be the board that we always be, and continue to be the best board, the envy of the province. So, like I say, it's not goodbye forever. I will be around. Occasionally I'll drop into meetings to see how things are going. But we must understand that we all have our own ideologies, and this board is accommodating, or try to accommodate people with different ideologies over the years. We represent a community that is very diverse. We have different differences of opinion at times, but we always able to come together in the best interest of students and what we do. So this is my comment and my announcement tonight, Madam Chair. I hope I'll have the privilege to say a few words, departing words, at the end of November. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I doubt that I can. I doubt that we could stop you talking, Trustee Williams. Director Joshua.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Trustee Williams, on behalf of our senior team, I would like to really acknowledge a brilliant, absolutely brilliant career here as a trustee of the Peel District School Board. Rick, I think of you often when I think of the word champion. And when I think of words like professionalism, you are absolutely a voice of reason in so many ways at this table. And we're all very privileged to work with you. When you talk about your long-standing career with the Peel District School Board, I think of you as very much a model of empowering modern learning. You are our modern learner. And I look at the words that we echo often when we think of who a modern learner is: a curious, competent individual who takes an active role in learning and also ensuring the learning of others. You empower all learners to achieve. You're open, you're flexible, and absolutely responsive to the needs. And what I've come to learn is that you are certainly supportive of your particular constituents, but also the board as a whole. You make strong connections. You ensure that rich and authentic relationships are at the center of everything you do. You're active, you're critical, you engage, and Rick, you're just an absolute treasure to all of us. So I know that there are many individuals on your senior team who can recount connections with you and the ways that you've helped to support the work that we all do collectively to inspire hope, confidence, and success in our students. And we thank you for being that absolute light, that absolute magic maker. And on a personal note, as I come into a board now into my first year, you were that first welcoming face that I saw even at my interview, and I knew I was in a safe place with Trustee Rick Williams. Thank you for everything that you've done.
So that is extremely well said, and some trustees who are on their first term as trustees don't know it, but before the end of the term, all of us, will have an opportunity to get together and to talk and to recognize service, and it's not always serious, so you can, and it's not only always personal, but it's meant to be fun and in the spirit of collaboration. Rick, from my perspective, and you and I have sat on this board for a number of years, you are a true gentleman. And I can say that over the 21 years that you have contributed as a trustee, I can't think of anyone who could match you in that aspect. You've always been so extremely supportive of me. And you may not think I've noticed, but I have. And I want you to know that after board meetings, and some of them are difficult to manage, these people can get a little out of hand at times. And I'll be up in my office getting ready after the board meeting to go home, and Rick will walk by, and he will duck his head into my office, and he will say, "Great job, Janet. You did a great job tonight, and I appreciate and thank you for your leadership." And you have done that, Rick, more than I can count on both of my hands. And you know that means so much to me, that encouragement and that support. So personally, I very much appreciate that. This board will miss you. As Director Joshua said, it's your calm, methodical way that you present options and opinions at this board that is so appreciated, I think, by all of our colleagues. And I know your community will miss you too, because I know how hard you've worked in your Malton community and worked for community members and students and administration and your schools. So I don't think you may not sit in this seat, but I hope that you'll continue to participate in your schools and go there as a volunteer and help children just as you always have done, because you have a lot to give to students, and we again very much appreciate it, so thank you. Okay, if we can move on, then we are on to 6. And 6.1 are the retirements, and there is an addendum, and so I'll ask Trustee Nurse, will you put those, Trustee, oh, you are there, okay. Trustee Nurse.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, I am here. I know we congratulate all our retirees, but I wanted to make special mention of Margaret Aki, who is our switchboard receptionist.
Oh, yes.
She is that wonderful face when you walk into the board during the day, and that soothing voice when you call and ask for information. She has been that bastion of our board office for, I'm not even sure, I think it's over 30 years that she's been with us. So wish her all the best. So sorry to see her go. I will miss her, her welcoming face when I come in the mornings. But I know she's got some wonderful plans for her retirement, and I don't think that she'll be gone forever. But she has put in a retirement. Sorry to see her go, and as I said, definitely wish her all the best.
Thank you. Can we give her a cell phone and she can work remotely? Thank you. Trustee, turn my mic up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I was, and I would like to echo the same sentiment as Trustee Nurse about Margaret, because I tell you something, I remember many times I come into this board office and I have to wonder, you know, about folks and the time that we live in. I would say good morning or good afternoon, and they would just walk past me and not responding. But Margaret never failed to, you know, say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, how you doing, and to give you that smile. And it's, you know, it's delight me that when I walk in the board office to see someone that sits at that desk that, you know, offers such encouragement for you to come into the building. So I truly want to congratulate her on her retirement and wish her well. I also want to acknowledge one of my principals who has put in her retirement also, Sandra Ducey, Jean Augustine, who has opened the school, and you know, very innovative school, and I've put some really innovative stuff in that school, and you know, needless to say, I was hoping that she would stay a little longer, but unfortunately, she has put in her retirement, and I want to wish her all the best. And I'm just hoping now that we'll able to find a principal that will carry on the work that I started there, because when I go there, I see the engagement of students, and I see the impact having this school. And also, this is a very special in their school, and we need to make sure that this school continue to represent the namesake that it's carrying. So I want to wish both of these two individuals all the best. Thank you.
Trustee K. McDonald.
Thank you. I also, in a much shorter form, would like to echo the sentiments of Trustee Green, because I too am going to miss Sandra's bubbly spirit, and she was a very innovative and creative person. And also, Margaret, you know, every time, especially when you go through, you know, a rough meeting or something's not going well, you just see her big, bright smile, and it just warms your heart. And I'm truly going to miss that, Margaret. And again, I know she has big plans, so, you know, I won't begrudge her island time, but I just really wish her all the best, and thank you for all your years of service and your smile.
Thank you. Trustee Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to congratulate Margaret and to wish her well in her retirement. She's a wonderful addition. She's always a wonderful addition to this board. As mentioned before, she always has a smile on her face and extremely polite. And I remember not too long ago she was saying to me, Rick, guess what happened? I run into your wife and your daughter in Israel. And, you know, she didn't know, she never knew them before, but by talking, then she get to realize that, you know, it's my wife and daughter. So, but, you know, we're certainly gonna miss her, and I'm sure the board will miss her presence. So thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the retirements? Carried. So let's move on to 8.1, which is the follow-up response to the delegation of David. Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. How could I skip over delegations? Thank you. So 7.1, a delegation. I would welcome Stan Taylor to come forward regarding access to school council meetings. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
If it's easier for you, you can pick that mic up and hold it, and then you can put your papers down, or whatever works for you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, trustees, and all attendees. My delegation is regard to access to school councils, longer title which I submitted. School council meetings are public meetings governed by Ontario Regulation 612 and the Peel District School Board Policy 61. Inaccurate interpretations of the regulation and the policy led to an infringement of my rights. I ask trustees to examine the facts of my case and to rule on appropriate remedial measures. As part of my submission, I am providing the Board of Trustees with copies of the following. My original letter of complaint dated May 1st, 2018, addressed to the Superintendent of Education responsible for the school and school council in question. This was also copied to Peter Joshua, Director of Education. 2, the board's response to my letter of complaint issued by the superintendent, dated June 6th. 3, my rebuttal to the board's response, dated June 14th, in which I detail my objections to the board's response. 4, a series of 3 emails sent and received between myself and Chairperson Janet McDougall, dated through April 8th to May 2nd, 2014. These are included to demonstrate that the issue of access to school councils has been discussed before. My complaint deals with the events that took place when I attended school council meetings at a secondary school in Brampton. I was treated unfairly and in a manner that is contrary to the provisions of the Regulation 612, which we'll discuss as the regulation, and Peel District's Policy 61, to be known as the policy hereforth. As trustees, I'm sure you're aware these documents are applicable to the proper functioning of school council meetings. I will posit to you that a primary tenet of the cited regulation and policy is school council meetings are public meetings. These public meetings are guided by the principles within the regulation and policy. Adherence to these principles is expected by all in attendance. In the end, after a series of meetings, which I describe in my complaint letter, the council voted to deny my request to be included on a future agenda to speak on math and the semester system. However, it is the means by which this conclusion was reached that is the core of my complaint and not the final decision itself, because I had attended other school council meetings and had an opportunity and was treated fairly, and people listened to me for 10, 15 minutes, and I went on my way. This was not the case at this particular school. The proper process was not followed. My rights as an individual and a citizen were seriously infringed. The superintendent's response states, the board's operating procedures authorize support or denial of the request at the discretion of the council. I emphasize council since this is central to my complaint. The council did not properly consider my request. Excerpt from Policy 61, Procedures at School Council Meetings, Section 5, Public Question Period, Point F. Parents and members of the public attending a meeting who are not school council members can make a recommendation to the chair that a particular item be placed on the agenda of a subsequent meeting. The council can support or deny the request at their discretion. Again, I emphasize the reference to council can support and deny. Just as is done at this board, motions and delegations are presented through you, the chair, and the decision is made by the board as a whole. I wish to bring your attention to the proceedings of November 6th, 2017, as detailed in my complaint letter. This was the second meeting I attended. There appeared to be a refusal to acknowledge that I had made a request at the previous meeting, and I should have accepted a lack of response as a denial. It appears that the board's interpretation, as conveyed in the response letter, is that a decision to support or deny a request can be made without the involvement of a quorum of the council. Example, decision can be made in between scheduled meetings. Decisions can be made by the chair alone or in consultation with the principal, as examples. Indeed, as per the email of May 2nd, 2014, it was relayed to me by Chairperson McDougall, the council is advisory to the principal and agendas are set jointly based on the determined needs and priorities of the school. This appears to suggest that the principal must agree to an agenda item, thereby granting veto powers to the principal. I ask, how pervasive is this belief among senior administrators? Yes, the council is advisory to the principal, but definitely not subservient to the principal. Of course, the principal's opinion is important, but the principal is specifically the only council member without a vote. Furthermore, the policy clearly states in Section 5 the roles and responsibilities of school council members. B, the chair and the school council shall establish and communicate in consultation with the principal a meeting schedule for the year. And this is to mean the dates and times of the meetings. And it goes on to say, prepare the agenda for meetings in consultation with the council members, i.e. a proper quorum of the council in a proper public venue. The policy has this to say regarding an absence of quorum. A, no motions may be considered or approved. B, if a majority of the parents wish the meeting to proceed in the absence of a quorum, the council will continue the meeting for the purposes of discussion of issues. In these matters, I ask the trustees to rule that the board's interpretation is erroneous. As I stated in my rebuttal, to rule otherwise would be to support the board's position, and this would constitute a system whereby the principal and school council chairperson are able to control the affairs of council beyond the scrutiny of the council as a whole. Such a system would be completely undemocratic and undermine the function of the school council as a public meeting. Then on to the December 4, 2017 school council meeting. I discussed this meeting in detail in my complaint letter. In summary, the co-chairs asked for all non-council members to leave the council room, which was the school library. I objected, saying the school council meeting was a public meeting and I should be allowed to stay. Then there was silence, and it was clear that we were at an impasse, and unless I complied as others did, the meeting would not continue. We exited the council room. After re-entering the council room, no explanation of the purpose of the private meeting was given. Later, during the public question period, I asked about the status of my request to be included on a future agenda. It appeared that the council again would not acknowledge that I had made a request, and I should have accepted a lack of response as a denial. To this I say, I respected the process, and I have the right to expect the process to be followed by the council and principal. In the board's response issued by the superintendent June 6, the superintendent confirms that the motive of the private meeting was. In my rebuttal, I asked, am I safe to infer that it is also your understanding that the principal is an active participant during the recess consultation, and that the topic of discussion during this recess was indeed the issue of my request for inclusion on a future agenda? The superintendent goes on and makes a case for our parents who volunteer for these roles, and they have a need for latitude to learn and execute the responsibilities. I agree that it is proper to extend this latitude to parent volunteers. However, no such latitude is to be extended to the principal, especially when multiple breaches of policy and regulations have been done. At the meeting, I pointed out to the principal that he had failed to carry out his duties under the Peel Policy 61, roles and responsibilities of school council. D, the principal. The principal shall act as a resource on laws, regulations, board policies, and collective agreements. To this, the principal responded, I don't know all the policies. And I said, you should. It is clear that the principal and the co-chairs did not conduct this meeting in compliance with the regulation or policy. The principal acted inappropriately by allowing the meeting to go into a private session. As principal, he ought to have been aware of the regulation and the policy which stipulate the following. 1, Ontario Regulation 612 states, all meetings of school councils shall be open to the public. Furthermore, there are no, this is my comment, there are no provisions in the regulation or policy for a private session, as it is contrary to the principles of openness and transparency expected at a public meeting. 2, as per the rules in the policy, the principal of the school shall, as I said earlier, act as a resource on laws and regulations, etc. The principal failed to uphold his duty in this regard. He ought to have known his responsibilities to the council. 3, as per the roles and responsibilities in the policy, the co-chairs of the school council shall prepare the agenda for the meetings in consultation with the council members. Granted, the principal is a council member to be consulted, but is the only council member without a vote. Any consultation among council members regarding my request to speak to the council should properly have been done in compliance with the principles of openness and transparency expected at a public meeting. As a point of reference, I ask trustees to review the ruling by the Ontario Ombudsman entitled In the Back Room, October 2013, an investigation into whether members of council for the City of London held improper closed meetings on February of that year for guidance on what constitutes an improper meeting. This can be found online. In my original letter of complaint and rebuttal, I present my testimony regarding a telephone conversation with the principal. The barriers to a proper consideration of my request started with the principal's rude statement to me, and I repeat his quote, "I will not allow it." The superintendent failed to address this outburst in the board's response letter. If indeed the principal has refuted my version of our telephone conversation, he has made me to appear as a liar. This viewed in isolation presents a conundrum of who to believe. This can be solved by reviewing subsequent statements and actions. In these matters, I ask the trustees to rule that the principal failed to uphold his duties, uphold the duties under the regulation and policy, and thereby is complicit in the act of infringing my civil rights. I ask that you establish a clear precedent that demonstrates that the board's response in saying the recess is not a preferred practice, and I have reviewed this with the school administrator, that this is completely inadequate. Nothing less than a clear prohibition on this practice can be accepted. I ask trustees to rule on whether the infractions to the regulations and policy are the result of malfeasance, negligence, incompetence, or a combination thereof. I call on trustees to direct the administration to take substantive disciplinary measures against the principal in order to demonstrate an appreciation of the magnitude of the infractions and to serve as a deterrent to others. Going forward, in order to improve the process, I call for mandatory training of all principals, vice principals, and superintendents in order to establish a baseline for compliance with the regulation and policy. Policy 61 should be amended to require disclosure by the chair of the council having private meetings outside the regular scheduled meetings with other council members and or the principal. This does not need to be elaborate. The results of the disclosed meeting should be presented as a recommendation to the council to consider. A further amendment, requests such as mine should be considered as bona fide new business to be processed as per other items for consideration by the council. If a decision is to be postponed, then the item shall be dealt with at a future meeting, whether or not the proponent, such as myself, are present or not. The decision of the council is to be recorded in the meeting minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, and the board has indulged you past your 10-minute time, but we wanted to do that so you could complete your delegation. I would very much appreciate if you would hand your notes in, or if we already have them, that would be terrific. We will try to respond to your delegation as quickly as we can. As you know, this is our last meeting of the board, but for this school year, but I'm hopeful that the administration will answer the questions that you've posed. Trustees will indeed, I know, I haven't got there. Trustees will receive a copy of that electronically, and so we'll try to resolve that and get you a response as quickly as we can. Trustee Green has a question of clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Sort of a little bit confused because you read a lot of stuff and basically go into stuff that I have no clue what you're talking about, so I'm confused. So I need to ask a couple questions of clarification for myself in terms of your delegation and your acts. Now, why were you, you said you went to other school council and you gone to this particular school council and request to put an agenda, an item on the agenda, and you were denied?
Yes.
Why? For my own clarification, why? Did they give you a reason why?
Why was it?
Yeah, why did you said they didn't give you?
No clear answer was given, other than, well.
Are you a member of that school council?
No.
No. And so you just showed up and wanted to put something on the agenda?
That's the home school that my children went to.
Okay.
And as you know, I've been advocating for a change to the delivery of math and wanted to speak to math in the semester system.
Right.
And I had new data where I did a comparison between the Peel board and the Toronto District School Board and the relative rates of success in the EQA results. And
okay.
So I wanted to present that as support.
So my question is, was the school council chair, who is a public member and the chair of the school council, that denied your request?
Not directly, but in the end, yes. But,
okay.
But what I'm describing are the machinations that happened before a clear. It could have been just a clear. Who would like to hear Mr. Taylor speak? Look around the room, as had happened at other council meetings, and principals seeing that there was some interest, I was afforded a few minutes. In this case, it was deferred to the next meeting, and then when I attended at the next meeting, there was no mention of my previous request. I brought it up again during the public question period, and
so
people attacked me.
Okay, one final question, just for my clarification. What the item that you are asking the school council to put on the agenda for you to speak to, how relevant and impactful that is on the present system and the student within the school? What relevancy does that have on those students that are attending that school?
Well, I think it's very relevant.
I don't, can I intervene here? I don't think that's a question of clarification.
Okay, well, the thing is that happened,
that's a discussion.
Well, you can make your decision, but I'll let it go. I'll let it go. Okay, so I'll ask you one final question. So you said you requested another time to be on the agenda, and they deny you.
I'm sorry, please repeat.
You request for a second time to have an item on the agenda, and you was denied.
No, I did not request a second time.
Okay.
I asked, has there been a decision to
right.
grant my request? There was only ever one request.
Mm-hmm.
but I had to follow up because they asked for time to consider it.
Right.
And come back for the next meeting.
And they haven't come back,
And
so.
at the next meeting, they acted as if I hadn't even been there. And,
Okay.
and I had to press the point during the public question period at the end. And there was no resolution. They asked for more time. So then I went back. And again, then the December 4th meeting, which I relate to you, they were getting to the point where they should have properly addressed the old business, but they seemed to adjourn the meeting, kick everyone out, and have this private consultation where I was expelled from a public meeting so that they could apparently have a private in-camera discussion on my request. But they did not at that time admit to that was the reason why they had broken to the recess. And finally, if you're going to read my
Okay, all right. So,
letter,
so
you're going to find that they fine.
so
But my position had been so prejudiced in the views of many of the parents who, in October, had shown some relative interest in hearing me speak. But by the time November and December came along, my position had been totally prejudiced in their eyes, and the principal, obviously, well, he told me he would not allow it, and I think that his involvement in this is deplorable. And
okay. Okay, so what I'll do, Mr. Taylor, I'll read the submission, and I hope the submission is clearer than your presentation tonight so that I can understand your presentation and your acts. Thank you.
Okay, so as I said, we will respond. I know the administration has been working with you, Mr. Taylor, and so we will respond as best we can and as quickly as we can to answer your concerns. So again, if you have the notes and we don't, if you wouldn't mind handing them to Ms. Mueller. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can we move on? Then that is our last delegation. And so we'll move to 8.1, which is a response to the delegation of David Lang regarding the Peel District School Board 2018-19 budget priorities. It is here for receipt. Trustee K. McDonald, do you want to put this on the floor? Yes? Seconded by Trustee Crocker. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. 8.2 is a response to the delegation of Mohammed Cotter regarding the raising of the pride flag. It is here for receipt. Trustee Cameron, will you move receipt? Seconded by Trustee Lawton. Are there any questions or comments about the response? All those in favor? Carried. 8.3 is the response to the delegation by Paula Hylton and Colin Brown Jr. regarding We Rise Together. It again is here for receipt. Trustee Andrews, will you put it on the floor? Seconded by Trustee DeCrube. Any questions or comments regarding the response? All those in favor? Carried. 8.4 is the response to the delegation of Kola Iliamata regarding the equity at the board. It is here for receipt. Moved by Trustee B. McDonald, seconded by Trustee Williams. Are there any comments or questions around the response? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Opposed? Nobody. Okay, it's carried. It's for receipt, people. So then, can we move on to 9.1, which are the recommendations of the Special Education Advisory Committee of May 15th. It is information for receipt. Trustee Lawton, would you put those on the floor, please? Seconded by Trustee Nurse. Are there questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. 9.3 is the appointment of trustees to the Flag Raising Operating Procedure Development Committee. There must be an acronym. So, so this was a notice last meeting, and it is here for nominations. So would you indicate nominations, please? Trustee Andrews.
Yes, through you, Chair McDougall, I'd like to nominate Trustee Stan Cameron.
Thank you. Trustee Lawton.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I would like to nominate Trustee Robert Crocker.
Okay. Any other nominations? Well, we're supposed to wait a minute, but okay. Trustee Williams is moving. Sorry, I don't know why this is doing this, but Trustee Williams is moving that nominations are closed, seconded by Trustee Green. All those in favor? Carried. So I would declare that Trustee Cameron and Trustee Crocker have been elected to this committee. I'm not quite sure when the first meeting will be, but I know that you will hear from the executive member, and in the meantime, the vice chair and I will decide who's going to sit on this committee. Okay? All good. All those in favor of that decision? Carried. 9.4. 9.4 is the third quarter financial reports as of May 31st. First of all, Trustee Lawton, you'll put those on the floor for me. Thank you. Trustee Singh, you second that. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? I've taken a look at it, and it seems that we're on track from years past. And so that's all good news for us to come in with a balanced budget for 2017-18, which is extremely important to us. And so are there any other comments? I'd like to thank Finance for this work. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to 9.5 has been withdrawn. We're going to 9.6, which is the notice of motion from Trustee K. McDonald regarding a targeted recruitment drive to hire more racialized staff, specifically Black and Indigenous. So, Trustee McDonald, the floor is yours to introduce the motion.
Thank you. Whereas the Peel District School Board strives to inspire success, confidence, and hope in all students, whereas the We Rise Together, the Peel District School Board's action plan to support Black male students was created to identify, understand, minimize, and eliminate the marginalization experienced by Black male students in the Peel District School Board, whereas it's important for students to see themselves reflected in their learning environment and have high expectations set for them, whereas several research reports and studies conducted by the Peel District School Board highlight the great negative impact some marginalized students perceive in their learning environment to be it resolved that the Peel District School Board embark on a targeted recruitment drive to hire racialized staff, specifically Black and Indigenous staff, so that teaching staff will better represent the diversity of the population they serve. Oh, you didn't need to say who the seconder is? No? No?
Yes, you need a seconder. Yeah. Trustee DeCroop. So you may, do you have comments regarding the motion that is now on the floor?
I do.
I have a list.
Okay.
Yes, it's her
Yeah,
motion.
Okay. Thank you. Before I start, I have a few questions for my colleagues. So I have a report that I'm going to pass around for you to just have a look at, because I'd like to have it returned back to me. Also, I have, and I want you, as you look at it, when you look at that report card, to tell me if you think that's the report card of a potential criminal in the making. I also am going to pass around a top student achievement certificate from a student that attended a certain school. And then on moving to another school with a population that was predominantly, has a high marginalized population of students, I'm going to now pass around a worksheet that was given to a grade 5 student. And I'd like you to note that it says this is a grade 3 grammar worksheet. And when the parent came to me to complain about it, she was told that if it wasn't, I didn't forget, the teacher speaking, if I didn't forget to white it out, you wouldn't have known the difference.
So can I just ask as clarification, Trustee McDonald, are there any personal, is there any personal information?
No, I've blocked out the names of the students.
And the school?
Yeah, apart from her achievement award, because that's not a negative thing. It's an achievement award for being a top student at a school.
But it's still personal information, Trustee McDonald. I mean, honestly.
Okay, but I won't pass out the.
You should know that we cannot share personal information in public.
Okay,
You
so
can't.
I won't send the achievement award.
Fine.
Okay, so, but the point is, this was a student. No, that has no personal information on it. That the student names are blocked out. Everything is blocked out from that. The achievement award of this young lady is from a different school. But I was just comparing the same student, how they're treated in different schools. That was the point of that. I want to ask my colleagues if you think shooting students with water guns is an acceptable method of discipline. I also want you to think about if you think it's appropriate to have a child, in today's day and age, to have a child stand on one foot in a corner as an appropriate disciplinary method in today's learning environment. Or if you think labeling children terrorists or mocking a precious child that is in our care on Instagram is appropriate. So these examples I give is to highlight the real examples of unjust treatment that some racialized students face. And I know that I can confidently say that such behavior is not condoned by my colleagues. Now, as I attempt to lay out the why and how of this motion, I would first like to read a few findings from various researchers that are way more enlightened about the complexities and importance of having students see themselves reflected in the classroom. First, I would like to present some data from the workforce census that was given. And in doing this research, I also found that their members, when I look at the workforce census of the Peel District School Board, that in fact also in the South Asian community, they are not properly represented in the demographics of the board. So I don't know if at the end of this I could make a friendly amendment to include the South Asian community, or I could put another motion on the floor to include the South Asian community, because they too are not adequately represented in the makeup of the Peel District School Board. So I look at, for example, in ETFO, the PEOT or PEOT or the PETL, they're only 5% of teachers are black. In the South Asian community, it's 26 and 16% respectively. In OSSTF, there are 7% black teachers, and in the PSOT, only 9%. In the South Asian community, it's 13% and 18% respectively. I could not get the percentages for indigenous or teachers that identified as First Nations, Métis, or Inuit, but the total representation of that group is 1.5%.
Trustee McDonald, I'm sure you're aware, according to the bylaws, D30, You have 5 minutes to speak to your motion, and you are well over that 5 minutes, so I would ask you to sum up.
Okay. So the census shows that there are 15.3% black staff and about 57.8% South Asian staff. So I just wanted to read, I'll skip some of my quotations, about the importance of having our students see themselves reflected in the classroom. So the fact that my skin color, I'm reading from a teacher perspective, the fact that my skin color matches that of my student doesn't give me any superpower as an educator. It does give me the ability to see them in a way that's untarnished by the stereotype, biases, and cultural disconnects that fuel inequality and injustice, like the outlook that made Trayvon Martin carrying Skittles appear dangerous or suspicious to a man who took his life. I'm connected to students because I share their racial identity, but it is more than that. I'm familiar with the world they inhabit. I can see their charms and challenges without the filters of minority or urban or at risk. I show them through the pizza I ordered for their birthdays, through the full days without schoolwork that give them time for the break they need to do, through teenage comedy, and I laugh at and with them.
Trustee McDonald, you are now 9 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up in 2 seconds, if you could indulge me.
Go ahead. I mean, of
thank
course.
you.
I
To be
asked you to
clear,
sum up 2 minutes ago.
Many of my non-black colleagues see our kids' incredible potential, just as I do, and are powerful advocates for them. And their ability to treat students like people and love the mess out of them doesn't rely solely on race. However, we live in a world of zero-tolerance policies where students are often kicked out of class for insubordination or refusing to do simple tasks. I will stop there as I'm out of time.
Thank you very much. Somebody's, yeah.
Okay.
Trustee Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I've listened to my colleague speak about her passionate about her motion, and I know that she's very passionate about this topic and the subjects, and it is, I believe that this motion has relevancy to it. I believe that it's something that as a board that we really need to look into. However, based on what present before me tonight, I'm going to ask to defer this motion, refer it to HR, so we can have a wholesome discussion, and I'm going to request that HR conduct some research, and I will outline what I would like HR to come back with so we can have a wholesome discussion, because there's some implication in terms of the federations and collective agreement, and that will have some impact and the way we go about this. I want to support this. I want to support my colleague because I believe that this motion will really do some of the things that we've been trying to say for a long time. But there's a right way and there's a wrong way and how we do things to get it done. And I would like to see this happen, but the way it is presented tonight, I'm going to ask that, Kathy, I'm going to ask you to indulge me and let's refer this motion and then bring it back to this table in the fall to be voted upon. That's what I'm going to ask tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you have a seconder for referral? Trustee B. McDonald. So I can tell you now, there is a referral motion on the table. So anyone who is speaking needs to speak to the referral. Trustee DeCruz.
Madam Chair, I had an amendment that I would have liked to put forward before the referral came about, because I think we would have dealt with it better. For now, I'm going to pass on the referral, because I'd like to see if my amendment would go through first. And I think it's something that may be something that a lot of members of the board may be interested in. So I'll pass on the referral for now. I wish we did it the other way around, but it is what it is.
Well, I am following the rules, and so we have to deal with the referral first. Trustee Williams.
Yeah,
On the
thank you,
referral.
Madam Chair. I think this motion is with good intention and a motion that can be supported by the board. But I would like some clarity around, so I'll be supporting the referral because I would like some clarity around the impact of Bill 247.
Yes?
On this
The government regulation?
Yeah, the government regulation.
274?
Yeah, 274. Got it all mixed up. 274, and on the Human Rights Commission, the impact that it, how it impacted the collective agreement, and all those should become coming to us through HR. So I'm in support of the deferral because
Referral.
the referral, yes, because of the need for clarity around
Thank you.
this motion.
Thank you. Trustee McDonald, you are next on my list, but I can't recognize you because you're closed debate. Oh, yes, of course. I'm sorry. Yes. My apologies. Trustee McDonald, on the referral.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
I do not wish to, for a referral, because as a community, we have been studied and researched enough, and we're not going to find anything new. And with regards to the impact of the collective agreement, this motion is not going to impact the collective agreement. If Durham District School Board can do this legally, then I have no reason why Peel cannot, because I remember Tony Pontus's remark. With a question was around clarity of Bill 274. Again, this the Durham, in speaking with the vice chair of Durham and the director there, they came up with this program in consultation with their unions, and it did not impact their collective agreement or Bill 274. They, under the Human Rights Code, I have it right here, and I spoke to 2 people at the Human Rights Office. I was told, and if you look under the Human Rights Code, they have a special program section. This section allows organizations and employers to create temporary special measures on a voluntary basis. The purpose of this special program is to help create opportunities for people who have experienced discrimination, economic hardship, and disadvantage. Landlords, service providers, which we are, and other organizations may start their own special programs. No special or advance approval by the OHRC is needed. The OHRC encourages the development of special programs as an effective way to help reduce discrimination and address historical disadvantage. Organizations can learn more about how to develop special programs from the OHRC's publication, Special Programs and the Ontario Human Rights Code, a self-help guide. To be a special program, the program must meet one of the following conditions. It must relieve hardship or economic disadvantage. You will relieve hardship. It must help disadvantaged people achieve or try to achieve equal opportunity or help eliminate discrimination. Special programs must be developed carefully and with clear reason about why a particular group is chosen for special assistance. So, and this is taken straight out of the guide to your rights and responsibilities over the Human Rights Code. So, with that being said, I
can't
will
hear
not
you. I
refer
can't hear you.
this motion. I'd like to deal
You're
with it
not in
tonight.
favor of
No, I'm not in
referral.
favor of it.
Thank you. Trustee Lawton, on referral.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I will support deferral.
Referral.
Referral, sorry.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
I wrote referral down.
That's okay.
I feel this motion is one of exclusion, not inclusion. I cannot support a motion that binds this board or any future board to hire specifically, and I quote the motion if I can, Black and Indigenous staff. I agree with the first 3 paragraphs of this motion, but I can't support it. So I support referral.
Thank you. Are there any other comments about referral? I see none at the moment. I'll get back to you, Trustee Green. At this point, I'd like to turn the chair over to the vice chair because I want that opportunity to speak to this. We moving?
Do we need to move?
We don't need to move. You can just, oh, I need to do that for you. There. Thank you. So the rules, the bylaws, because obviously process is important, say that if the chair wishes to give an opinion, they have to give up
The chair.
the chair. So the vice chair will chair this item until it is concluded. Okay, can I speak?
Absolutely.
So I'm speaking to the referral. I will be voting against the referral. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. You don't know why. But I want to make it very clear why. I want to deal with this motion tonight. I will never agree that targeted hiring is the right thing to do. To vote for referral, would be disingenuous of me. And I just can't do that. I have to be and will remain honest to myself first and to this board. The motion is self-serving. It is contrary to our principles of equity. Equity is leveling the playing field, helping people to rise up, but not by pushing others down, by taking jobs away. This motion is monumental, the original motion, in its consequences. If approved, it will change all of our work, our vision, our values. It will offer preference to one group of people based on the color of their skin and the gender that they are. It will divide, it will discriminate. Trustees should know whether they support targeted hiring or not right now, rather than refer. I want no part of this, absolutely none. So please turn down the referral so that we can dispose of this regressive motion quickly before the public thinks we've lost our focus. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers to referral? I think Trustee Singh.
Oh, sorry.
I can't
do
do
my
it.
job.
You've got the board.
Here we go.
So I will be supporting referral. I disagree with due respect that I do think that there are structural barriers for Black people and Indigenous people and South Asian people that need to be recognized, and so I think we do need to do additional research, as Trustee Green has suggested, but I do disagree strongly with some of the things that were said. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other speakers to referral. Looking at the board, so I will call the vote.
No, you can.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Green, did you want to close debate on referral?
So, I am asking my colleague to support the referral of this to HR, then bring this back to the board so we can vote upon it. Because I'm a trustee, I have been here 15 years. 15 years, we have policies and procedures and way we do things. And I want this to be done the right way, that when it come back to this table, there is no one have anything to say. Whether we would have already debated, would have had our evidence to prove why it is important to go into this in this direction. So, with that said, I'm going to ask my trustee colleagues, because we need time to get those information that is needed, time to work with our federation if need be, time to get buy-in from people. It's not about individual trustees, it's not about individual community, it's not about individual person here. We have to think of the impact of all the students and all the community that we serve. Yes, we need to see that we start making sure that we're iron to make sure that we are reflect in the school. If anybody talk about reflection, I make sure that I patrol my school every September and I ask principal who's hiring the school. Some of my former principal here, we had those discussions over and over and over again. So they know that I'm an advocate to make sure that our school and our student, especially our black students, are being supported, and the staff that are in front of them are reflecting the population of the student. So therefore, I want this to be done right. So I'm going to ask you tonight to move forward and let's differ this so we can have that wholesome discussion, and I can talk to my colleagues and maybe convince them to support this motion, because I believe that the motion has very, very good intention, and that's why I'm moving for deferral. Thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee Williams, I noticed that you've indicated to speak. I think you've already spoken, and Trustee Green has just closed debate. So respectfully, I think you have lost that opportunity, because you have already spoken to referral, and that's the motion on the floor right now.
I do understand, but this is very important what I have to say.
I'm trying to make sure we follow process.
I'm just trying to see if I could sneak this across.
And I wish I could let you, given what you said earlier, but I'm going to follow process. And Trustee Green has closed debate, so I'm going to call the vote.
Okay,
All right.
sure.
So the vote on the floor is for referral. All those in favor of referral? All those opposed? Any abstentions? So the motion to refer has carried. Do I turn it back to you, Chair?
It is. Can I ask a question of clarification, please, of the mover, now that the referral has passed? I believe that our administration needs more direction. We're referring a motion without any direction, and so I think we need to clear that up. I know it doesn't have to be exactly detailed, but I believe that it should be cleared up. Trustee Green, if you might clarify that, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll put this in writing and send it in. I'm asking to defer this, that we have the discussion, full wholesome discussion at our HR meeting in the fall. I think that is around the 15th
of October.
We have a wholesome discussion there. I'm asking staff to bring back reports that we can use. I want reports from other board that have done this, how they have done it. I also want to look at the impact of how they work with their federation to make sure that this happen. And I want to look at all those impacts. So I'll put it in more detail and send it in so staff can have that. So when they come back with those information will help us to not only have a discussion, but also to help us make a very informative decision and bring this motion back to the floor to be voted upon. Thank you.
So, and I would suggest that other trustees who have a specific request for information that will help them make a decision, that if you would forward that, please, to the director. I have one I can think of now. I'd like to know what effect or what impact this has on our other marginalized students, and so I'd like an opinion on that. So I think at this point, we can do that with some thought. Give it some thought. Trustee DeCruz.
Madam Chair, can I at least share what my amendment would have been?
No.
No? That's
No.
it?
Well,
It's been hijacked?
it's not in order at this point.
Okay.
You know, you can personally share it through email, etc., but it's just not in order. It has no relevance at the moment. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to 10.1, which is graduation rates for 2016-17. Associate Director Graywall, would you like to talk a little bit about this? Oh, of course, okay. Sorry. I thought you, okay.
Thank you. So through you, Chair, I'm actually going to introduce Superintendent of Alternative Programs, Anthony Edwards, who will be walking us through the grad rate reports. Just one caveat that I wanted to stress as Superintendent Edwards makes his way to the podium is usually at this time we also have the provincial grad rate. Unfortunately, the provincial grad rate has not been released by the Ministry of Education this year. I think with the changes the changes in at Queen's Park, those rates will probably be released in the fall. Usually by this time, and usually it's April or May, the grad rate is available at the provincial level. Nonetheless, we felt it was important to be able to share this particular report with the board tonight, even though the provincial grad rate is not available. So with that, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Edwards.
Thank you.
Yes, I was going to say welcome, Superintendent Edwards.
Thank you. And through you, Chair McDougall, I would like to first take a moment to thank Kim Bennett, who, under the supervision of Dr. Paul Favreau from our research department, put together the report that is before you. My role this evening is to share the good news of continued, slow but steady progress of improving graduation rates. I also hope to contextualize the cold data so that we do not lose sight of the fact that behind each data point are the lived experiences of students doing their best, caring teachers making a difference, and supportive families and caregivers doing what they can to ensure that the school experience is a positive one. This evening, I intend to speak to a few of the key findings that have caught my eye. However, before I begin, I must point out that I am not in a position, as Associate Director Graywall has pointed out, to speak to the province's calculation of our graduation data, as this has yet to be shared. Consequently, in this report, no comparisons will be made for the current cohort. That said, I will speak to the trends that are seen when the data is disaggregated. Disaggregated data better reflects the educational experience of a few subsets of our population, providing greater insights into our strengths and our challenges. Who makes up the cohort? An important reference point for us to remember is that the current group of graduates that we are speaking about are students who, 1, registered at the beginning of the grade 9 year, 2, over the course of their grade 9 year, transferred into a Peel District School Board school during the 2012-13 school year. These students form our cohort, and throughout the report, they will be referenced as our cohort year. When students move to another jurisdiction outside of our school board, it has been our practice to remove these students from our cohort. It is here where we are in stark contrast to the practice of the Ministry of Education. The ministry locks a student into a school board's cohort if that was the first secondary school they were registered in. Consequently, students who leave a Peel school to attend another school within the province remain as part of our cohort. students must attend a school outside of the province before the province will remove them from our cohort. As you can see, our data appears to be poised to plateau. Our 4-year data remains steady at 88% success rate, while our 5-year data grew modestly to 94%. The sub-cohorts are on display on the screen, and I won't take the time to read to you the definitions that were assigned to each of the subgroups. The definitions may be found in your report. I do, however, want to acknowledge that we are not insensitive to those students who do not identify as either male or female. However, at this time, we have only male and female gender data to work with. When we look at subpopulation data, the information becomes much more interesting because it begins to provide evidence of our areas of relative strength. While I won't pause much longer on this rather overwhelming chart, I will speak to the disaggregated data using another format. Overall trend data for 4-year versus 5-year grads. In the last 5 years, you will see a slow and steady trend that is positive. Overall, we have seen an increase in the percentage of each cohort graduating. While graduation rates appear to be plateauing, a real positive sign is that we are doing a better job of graduating students after 4 years rather than after 5. Notice the differential between the 2008-2009 cohort and the current cohort has dropped from 10% to 6%. This is something to celebrate. In this graphic, we see that girls continue to find success faster than boys. However, over the last 5 years, please note that boys are narrowing the gap. And when it comes to graduating within 4 years, the differential has dropped from 11% to 7% in this period of time. In the 5-year graduation rate data, a 4 to 5% gap persists. English language learners. Again, we are enjoying success. Overall, we are seeing an increase of success for our ELL learners. We are also seeing a narrowing of the gap between ELL students and non-ELL students. When observing the 4-year graduation data, the gap between the ELL and non-ELL students appear to be closing quickly. Let us assume the 2009-2010 cohort is an anomaly with its 19% gap. In the previous 4 cohorts, the gap ranged between 9 and 10 points. A similar pattern has emerged with the 5-year data, where typically the gap would have been approximately 5%. Last year may be the start of a new trend where the difference is almost 0 between ELL and non-ELL students. Students with special needs. Serving our students with special needs continues to challenge us. Here's what the data appears to tell us. Trend data for students with special needs continues to be modestly positive to plateauing. Students with special needs who have been formally identified through the IPRC process outperform the students with special needs who have not been formally identified. Students with special needs represent approximately 16% of the cohort, which I am told is consistent with the provincial averages. For the current cohort, there was a 50-50 split between the identified versus non-identified students. Anecdotally, my colleague Ted Byers, Superintendent of Special Education Support Services, would suggest that the proportion of non-identified to identified special needs students is growing. The graduation gap between students with special needs, identified and non-identified, and non-special needs students, unfortunately, remains persistently high. Trend data by stream. As with all other data presented, the trend data is trending in a positive direction. More students within each stream are finding success, albeit at different rates. However, I am confident that as our system initiative to revamp assessment practices at the secondary level takes effect, and as the system continues to embrace the vision found in empowering modern learners, the trend will only continue in all three streams, allowing a higher proportion of students studying at the applied and locally developed levels to find success sooner. While I'm appreciative of the opportunity to share the data, it is important that the story behind the data not be lost. Our progress and the work yet to be done will continue to be guided by the direction provided in our plan for student success. We can take pride in being a learning organization, seeking new approaches to improving student success. Behind the numbers, many things are happening. Our plan is working to reculture our schools. It is no longer uncommon to see school administrators working through an inquiry process, either formally or informally, sharing and testing ideas and best practices around learning and assessment. This type of work is often facilitated by field superintendents, and this also serves to deprivatize practices. While that work is an example of setting high expectations, in this example we see a sample of grades 7 and 8 student success teachers at work. At the middle school level, we have 18 teachers working in 36 middle schools with students who have been selected and might be in need of additional support in the area of mathematics. These students were otherwise not receiving any other special attention other than the care of their classroom teacher. This approach, we hope, will support the board's goals of setting high expectations for all students while simultaneously addressing equity and inclusion. By supporting professional development that addresses work that is job embedded, teachers are discovering better ways to invigorate their programs and assessment practices. This is creating learning environments throughout the board of wonder and challenge for our students. It is also engaging students and staff to co-construct how that learning will take place, so that what our students are learning is deepened by virtue of the fact that they are co-designing the units of study and the learning environment, thus ensuring, or at least supporting, that the problem-solving process is relevant to the interests of students. In short, what I've tried to convey is the fact that the graduation rate data does not tell the entire story in and of itself. Our success is in large part attributed or attributable to our collective ability to commit to the plan for student success. While we still have work to do in meeting the needs of the 6% of students who have not graduated in 5 years, I am confident that we are on the right track. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Edwards, for that report. Are there any questions from, first of all, Trustee Green, will you put it on the floor, please? Yes. Seconded by Trustee Williams. There are trustees that have questions or comments. Trustee Crocker.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Unless this information is actually in the report and I've overlooked it, I don't need the statistics right now. But what I wonder is, with reference to your first slide, graph number 1 in your report, it's on our page 116. It's the one that looks like this, line graph, which shows the increasing grad rates, is if we have a similar graph, or could create a similar graph to show student averages. The reason I ask that is because you could interpret graph 1 in 2 ways. You could interpret it to mean that all of our students are doing better and bringing the former failures up to an acceptable rate, or you could interpret it to mean that the students who used to be getting marks in the 40s are now getting marks in the 50s or higher, or to use really old parlance, the Fs are becoming Ds. Students tend to rate themselves by their average, the average of their marks in a report card. So I wonder if we have average marks by year.
I will contact Kim and see what the information we have looks like for you and get back to you, if that's okay.
Thank you. I don't need that this week, but I'm wondering going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Trustee Green.
Madam Chair, I just want to say thanks for the report, and I personally want to say thanks to my superintendent to actually share my schools with me, and I'm really delighted, especially to see Central Peel and where we are now, and that is to attribute to some great work, set some foundation by former principal and the work to carry on, and good superintendent. So thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Any other comments or questions? Trustee Cameron.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, thank you, Superintendent Edwards. I'm sorry I had to leave for just a moment and did find the information I was looking for, but and I love reading this, the research, especially around graduation numbers. I think Mr. Favreau and Ms. Bennett do exceptional work. But on page 4 of their report was the data I had been seeking around the number and percentages of students who do not graduate solely because they don't have their 40 hours of volunteer work in. So I see in this 5-year current graduation rate 0.3%, representing 31 students, or for the 4-year graduation rate 0.7%, representing 61 students. I'm curious about the comparison of that to previous years, because as I recall sitting at this table, there had been previous years of commitments to make sure that superintendents and principals were getting after this number to help students be more productive to get those 40 hours, because that's the only thing that's stopping them from graduating. It's got to be frustrating for teachers, principals, families, and superintendents. Would you know how we're doing relative to previous years with these numbers?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Chair. I don't have that data point for the other 5 years with me. I will happily seek that out and provide that response to you. I do know from experience how daunting it can be to get our students, those few kids, to hand in that data, but you're absolutely correct in pointing out that efforts have been made to track students down and encourage them and to bring in the documentation that would support that they've completed. And if we could, that's the low-hanging fruit in all of this. That's almost a % improvement if we could have all of our students in this current cohort complete their 40 hours. That's the one outstanding piece. So I will go back and look at past reports and see if that information has been collected, and I will, through the director's office, provide you with that information.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair, it has been collected for sure, and I'm thinking just off the top of my head that these are good, that this is improvement considerably from previous years. So I'm hoping that's a trend that we're seeing moving to these lower numbers, and we continue to, as best we can, to get them to 0. And can you imagine that a student has done their 40 hours and that piece of paper is sitting somewhere in the backpack or in the corner of a room, and
Or
just
in a backpack?
yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments? I have one. I've always been interested in the 4-year versus the 5-year grad rates, because I believe that the ministry reduced secondary schools from 4 years or from 5 years to 4 years simply as a cost-saving measure. And I think they've done a disservice to our students. At the time, they talked about being competitive and making sure that we're keeping up with other provinces and jurisdictions. I didn't buy it for a minute. I don't think our students should be in any hurry to move to a next level when they have the safe and security of their families, and they're maturing along the way. So it proves here that our students, I mean, it's significant, the difference in the grad rates. If we give some of these students that extra year to mature and to mostly mature, I think, to understand the importance of going to school every day and doing their best. So this is consistent throughout, and it's unfortunate that the government continues to emphasize that the 4 years is the standard. I don't think any student has a standard, and I don't think we should be forcing them. So that's my editorial for the night. I have no other speakers. All those in favor? Carried. 10.2 is an update. Thank you, Superintendent Edwards. 10.2 is an update around the Tony Pontes Public School. And Mr. Wright, are you giving us a little introduction to this? I think it's pretty clear, but let's just say it and for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report tonight advises the Board of a 1-month delay at the completion of the new Tony Pontes Public School until August 31st, 2018. A project of this scale normally requires a 12-month construction period. The delay is primarily due to a late start of the project. We were trying to complete the project, having started it in early December in 8 months, or July 30th, 2018, coinciding with the start of the balanced calendar school year, which this school has operated as, holding at Countryside beginning September 2017. We are expecting to complete the school in 9 months and plan to occupy the new Tony Pontes School effective September 4th, 2018. Madam Chair, a communications plan will be developed in consultation with the superintendent's principals and distributed to the students and the families of the students that are affected. Busing will continue to Countryside School during the month of August. And again, that school is normally operates as a regular class or a regular program school, and we don't think there's going to be much of a pressing need for space at that school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Cameron, you want to put this on the floor, please? Thank you. Seconded by Trustee Singh. Are there any questions or comments regarding this? How many students are we talking about for Tony Pontes? To be like at the beginning. It's okay, Trustee Wright, because Controller Cameron wants to answer that question.
I'll say 400 plus at this point, but there'll be, we won't know for certain until after the first week of September enrollment.
To differ, AKA Controller Cameron?
So the most recent enrollment numbers are 340 right now. The school can hold 650. Capacity, it's filling up very fast. The development around the school it's really rapid. Just heard good news from the town of Caledon that they are putting in crossing guards right at the school until December to ensure safety, and they can see the development happening as well and how many more children will be coming to that school. So we're very pleased with the growth and development, and Madam Chair, if I could just say thank you to Controller Wright and Associate Director Gill for their due diligence in attempting to get the school to open on time. They had their finger on the pulse every week as to how things were going, and it's just we're just going to miss it by a bit, but I do appreciate their efforts.
So, and I shouldn't really put you on the spot, Controller Wright, but Plan B, we always have a Plan B, don't we? In that if the school is not ready for September 1st?
Point of clarification, if it's not ready by September 4th, that would be the question. We have considered that. We have Plan B.
Okay.
Projected enrollment at Countryside would show that school still having sufficient space to hold those students.
Oh, okay.
That would go to Tony Pontes.
They're just on a different organization.
We would hope there would be no slippage in construction progress between now and September 4th, but we can hold in September.
Good for you. I think that's comforting to know that we always look for a Plan B, right? Thank you. All right. All those in favor of the report? It's carried. Can we move then to 12.1 and 12.1, which is OPSBA Connects for June 11th. Moved by Trustee McDonald, seconded by Trustee Crocker. Questions, comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And on the agenda, our last item is 14.1, which is a response to a written question by Trustee DeCrube regarding incidents in Ward 9 and 10. Trustee DeCrube, will you put this on the floor? Thank you, and you may speak to it.
Thank you very much for answering this question. I really appreciate it. There was a lot of concern in the community, a lot of questions about what our education system is doing to raise awareness about weapons and how that could impact the lives of the students themselves and everybody around them. So I do really appreciate it. I appreciate how detailed it was, and I appreciate you sending it to me. If I may, I'd like to share it with the Residents Association, and they actually would like to include it in their newsletter, so that would be great. Is that okay? Is that okay with everyone? Okay, well, it's public, so yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Andrews, will you second that? Okay, any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Are there any reports from trustee representatives on councils or associations? Oh, seeing none. All right, then we are going to go to comments and questions from board members. May I remind trustees that this is our last meeting of the school year before our summer break. I know that there are many employees within the board that don't exactly get a summer break. In fact, Summer is one of their busiest times in, for instance, facilities, in maintaining and cleaning our schools and preparing them for September, which comes all too quickly. I, on behalf of the trustees, and I'll certainly give my colleagues an opportunity, but I want to, as usual, but sincerely thank everybody for what I think it was, is a very successful year. And our issues are difficult. They're complex. It's very difficult to please everybody. And yet I know that each and every one of us do the very best job we can to represent our communities and our students to the best of our abilities. And I thank the board members for their diligence and their pride in their community and their overall outlook about public education, in which case this board and this system comes first. And I thank them for that work. I hope that they take a little bit of a time to rest, to contemplate. I know there's an election coming up in the fall, and that is ever present on your mind when you're an elected representative. So I know it won't necessarily be as restful a summer as it should be, but at the same time, it's important to take some time to reflect and to gather your thoughts and to think about what you've achieved and the future goals that you have in the future. To staff, I just want to thank them for, as usual, for their outstanding work. I will be retiring at the end of the year, but I always say that I stayed so long because I love to hang around with smart people. And that has been true for so many years while I was here on the board. And your dedication and your commitment is, well, I don't want you going outside of this board to private industry or private corporations, because I think it will alert you to the fact that the dedication, the commitment, and the hard work is really unsurpassed in public education. And you need to be so proud of you and your teammates and everybody that supports you, your assistants in your office, and our switchboard operator, all of those important people that contribute to our success. So I too hope that you have a nice summer. I know it's always a little shorter than we expect, and I know that you're usually back doing what you do in August, but I hope you'll take that time as well to just take that mental health check and think about your own health and well-being, because you deserve it. So I do appreciate it. I think that's all that I want to say, but certainly I will go to our board members for any comments or questions that they want to make at this time. Trustee Power, I know that you want to update the board on a few things.
Yep. Through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank all members of the board from the bottom of my heart for their continued generosity and support throughout my year as student trustee. I'm grateful for the relationships I was able to develop and the work that we've all done this school year. Being in this position has given me an opportunity to not only expand my knowledge of the Peel District School Board, but the education system as a whole. And I'm very thankful to all of you for that. Whenever I've approached any of you, you have always been patient and welcoming, because I do realize I ask a lot of questions. Your patience and respectful treatment means a lot to me. I appreciate the efforts we all put into our schools, and I'm extremely grateful to have met, worked with, and spent this year with all of you. I'd also like to thank my co-trustee Carolyn for her work throughout this year. Although she isn't here today, I'd like to note she is an extremely passionate and hardworking individual that has also served as the Vice President of the Public Board Council. It has been a privilege working alongside her. I'd like to share with the board I've worked with Superintendent Byers and coordinating Principal Megan echelon to focus on how students in our special education programs with developmental disabilities can be included more deeply, respectfully, and authentically into our secondary school experience. I'm happy to report that we are identifying best practices for schools to bring DD students and mainstream students together in authentic ways that build community, honor, and respect. Furthermore, and this is something I'd like to actually share at last board meeting, but I'd like to share that Elevate was a phenomenal success. Thank you to all of you that were in attendance, and thank you to all of you for your support. We had received great feedback, both from the teachers, administrators, and students. Everyone seemed to thoroughly enjoy the event. Events like Elevate don't only show the talent and diversity we have in Peel Schools, but also the importance of arts and extracurriculars. Lastly, I'd like to share with the board something Carolyn and I have been working on throughout the year. In the beginning of our term, Carolyn and I sat down with Jaspal, and we had a conversation about extracurricular budgets within our schools and the procedures in which they are collected, allocated, or distributed. So Carolyn and I conducted a survey with all Peel presidents, and the results of the survey were put into a report and then presented to Jaspal to share with the administration. I wanted to share some of the questions that were asked in this report. For example, the first question was, what is your extracurricular student enhancement fee? And these varied from as low as $10 to as high as $100 per student. Although there are different enrollments in schools, the range is vastly different. The other questions were like, are you aware of your current SAC budget? And many students reported that they weren't. And at the same time, there were students that were aware. But the concerns that we found was that the students or the SACs that were unaware of their budgets, how were they conducting their activities for the year without knowing how much money to work with? We also asked, what is the procedure for your SAC to get an initiative or event approved? How do clubs in your school get funding? And like, how effective do you feel the allocation of extracurricular funds is at your school? Throughout the year, and even while I was a student and before I came into this term, students have always complained about the extracurricular budget and not knowing where the so-called money goes. And so this report and our next procedures are to work to improve that system and to correct the students' perception of the extracurricular operation currently. We have also found that many schools had set conditions on their student activity fees, which were not aligned with the policy of our board. And these conditions would be not being able to attend SAC events, not receiving their timetables and courses. If the fee is not paid, they cannot attend school, and so on. This was something that was told to students at the beginning of the school years. So we've proposed a number of changes, and I'd like to say, okay, great. It is my understanding that the administration will be releasing a memo by the end of June, which will cover the implementation of transparent extracurricular budgets to help our extracurricular activities and our students be more involved and to improve our allocation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I think on behalf of the trustees, we'll keep an eye on that for you, Kush, and we'll make sure that your intentions are fulfilled. And it sounds to me like you and Carolyn did some really good work on behalf of students. Thank you. Trustee DeCrube.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Felt that I had to say something with so many people talked about leaving, including our student trustee. So I'm starting to feel like I'm a veteran around here with everybody leaving. So
Be careful. There's responsibility that comes with that.
I know. I want to say that thank you for your service to all of you that have put time and effort and many years, some more than 21 years and 30 years.
We aren't leaving yet, though,
I
Trustee
know.
DeCrube. You
I know.
We're here till the end of
I know,
November.
but can I still say?
Absolutely.
Thank you? Okay.
Oh, always.
Who knows?
Let anybody talk about me
Who knows?
nicely.
So I just wanted to say that when I first got elected, I was younger than I am today. You can do the math, figure out what that means. And I've learned so much from all of you here on the board, especially from you, Janet, believe it or not, throughout our discussions and our debates, which I have enjoyed, even though sometimes they got a little heated. But I have learned a lot about governance, about how the board functions, how to even, how to work with my colleagues. And I do want to say that I appreciate those lessons very much. And Rick, I know that you have served the board for so many, many years, and like you said, the budget was $600 million when you first started, which is just quite amazing. And I just want to let you know that I appreciate that service very much. That's it for the emotional part for me today, and maybe I'll do this again since it's not the last meeting.
Okay. Trustee Andrews, comments?
Through you, Chair McDougald. So as we know, it's the end of another school year, and it might be our last it will be our last school year as a board. But when you reflect on all that has happened over the past 10 months, you look at what you did well, your accomplishments, what you could have done differently, and question things that happened. However, there is one constant for all of us, and that is the students. We want to do what is best for Peel students. It has been a long, fulfilling year, but what gets us through all the craziness, the budget decisions, and the long meetings is that we all love what we do. Why do we do the job we are doing? Because it inspires us and keeps us motivated, even when it is a long, challenging year. This kind of work at times exhausts you, but at the same time completely excites and energizes you because you know what you are doing is making a difference. I would like to thank our senior leadership team and administration for all of your expertise, hard work, and support. You are a key part and a contributor to this team. I also want to thank Chair McDougald for her strong and courageous leadership through some very challenging times. Lastly, I want to thank the two superintendents that I work with, Patrika Dawes and Liz Cook, for always being there to handle anything I pass your way. You both always have my back and never hesitate to jump in and fix things. And lastly, I just want to say that I'm very proud to be part of the Peel District School Board. Have a wonderful summer full of fun, relaxing family and friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Cameron.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I feel like that's probably the bottom line is so many people to make 257 schools, 156,000 children, and so many teachers make it all work at the school level. I think while it was a great year in so many ways, and that's probably the way we should finish this, but for me in my area, I do need to speak about some things that were very challenging. So for example, losing 2 custodians at Christmas time still has an effect in our schools and our children and our teachers. Busing issues that we have to work on and have to get better at and we have to fix and cannot be repeated come next September. The low fill rate issues across the board that we have talked about need our attention. And mental health issues across the board, across all people, need to be a greater attention as well. But thank you, amidst all of those challenges, thank you to all of the staff, our office staff, our custodians, our teachers, our TAs, our EAs, our BTAs, our ECEs, our VPs, our principals, who hold it all together in the schools. They're the people with boots on the ground, if you like, and who really make it work at the school level for our children and our families. Thank you to our admin, our superintendents, our associate directors, our director, who will start year 2 in August, and we will hit the ground running together. Welcome and thank you again. And maybe not most of all, but certainly an important part for me is thank you to Michael Logue, superintendent, who is extraordinary problem solver. When I think about the strong combination of a superintendent and a trustee in an area, I think about two people who respect each other's positions and stay on the side of the line. For me, it's on the politics side, and Michael, it's on the administrative side, except for when there's a gray area where we have to have those courageous conversations about how are we going to help resolve this. But Michael, you are absolutely wonderful to work with, and thank you for, I don't know how many phone calls I've made to you in this past year or email you had to answer, but thank you for everything. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Trustee Nurse.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if there's anything left to say.
Well.
Everybody's been so gracious with their thanks because it is well-deserved. We do have fabulous staff, and I want to thank everyone from our staff in the school to, of course, up to the director's office. You guys have walked us through some very difficult times. I'm looking forward to the new year because I'm looking forward to do better. And I think we really have to reflect on that. We as a board, we need to do better. I was privileged to have worked with, I have to say, one of the craziest superintendents in the system, Mark Harmon, who I think has left, so make sure you tell him I said that.
I saw him deke out there.
Deke out, and especially privileged to have a new superintendent, Matt McCutcheon, who has supported the schools in the Fletchers and the Heart Lake area so very well. So I appreciate all the phone calls, all the emails, all, as Trustee Cameron said, those courageous conversations to make sure we continue to support our students and our staff. So to everyone, try to have a restful summer. I say try with air quotes, and as I said at the beginning, let's come back and let's all try to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Crocker.
Thank you, Chair. Having been cranky about the PA system 2 weeks ago, I have to commend the people in charge of these things for the fact that I've been able to hear just about everything from just about everybody, provided they speak directly into the mic. So thank you. I too would like to thank my trustee colleagues for their forthrightness in all our dealings. I would like to thank senior staff and administration, all the people who are on the floor in front of us here, and in, I don't know what you guys call it, I call it the gondola up there.
Okay.
Memories of Foster Hewitt. Thank you for your patience and your patience and your patience with my questions and your good humor. A couple of outstanding examples today. I did have a bus question for Thomas today, and we managed to have a little laugh about it. There's a lot of serious stuff that we deal with here, and again, your patience and your forthrightness and your humor and your focus on the kids is what carries the day. So do have a good summer, and for those of you who still find yourself coming to work most days during the summer, at least try and dress down a little bit, okay?
Thank you. Trustee K. McDonald. Comment?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, before I say my thank you, I just want to register that I'm totally offended when you call me self-serving, because you are in no position to judge my intentions. I advocate fiercely for all my communities, my marginalized kids, and if asking about what's happening to our legal obligation to give kids 300 minutes of instruction per day, or asking that kids are being reflected and you call me self-serving, I take strong exceptions to that. If questioning why you can have regional hiring for the Caledon residents to solve their low fill rates and trying to advocate for the inner city schools in Brampton for their low fill rates, and you call that self-serving, I take strong exception to that. You have no idea of what I'm about. I am very passionate about marginalized people.
I won't debate it. I can only tell you that that comment was not made about that motion.
Well, you publicly have accused me of being self-serving, right? And I've never heard you publicly accuse any other person when they want to advocate for their community, right? And I take strong exceptions to you publicly humiliating me, and this is not the first time you have done it.
It's noted.
And on that note, I would also like to thank the senior admin team, especially my SOs. I have, I think, quite a few SOs, probably the most that I work with. I'd like to thank Dr. Solomon Henry, even though she's not here at the moment. I'd like to thank Superintendent Stubbins, Superintendent Liz Cook, and Superintendent, where's Jamie? I didn't see Superintendent Jamie right there, and Superintendent Jeff DeFreitas. So I actually have 5 superintendents. And, you know, you guys are, have been very, very present when I come to you with your concerns, and I appreciate that. I just also want to mention that this is probably going to be, well, it will be the last board meeting, the last year with Ted, who I'll miss very much. Ted has been a real good source of strength for me, and someone, even though he was no longer working with me as an SO, I could always call on him for guidance, and I'd like to thank Ted for that. I know he's not here, but I really appreciate that. And I also want to thank the staff that we don't thank enough. And those are people, I guess sometimes we often take them for granted, like our crossing guards, our custodians, our office managers, our lunchroom supervisors. And, you know, sometimes when I see the frontline staff, like the office managers, how kind and caring they are, and their role really is in so many different areas. So I appreciate their passion and just kindness that they show to the kids. I'd also like to thank my colleagues and my Ward 3 and 4 family. As you all know how hard I work for you and for the success of your children. And I want to especially thank in Wards 3 and 4 Giselle, our crossing guard. And last board meeting I said that she turned 93. So I saw her at a reception at the school and she corrected me. I met her when she was 93. She's actually turning 96 this year. So, you know, and she's a very energetic, just loving, compassionate person. And just about, I remember they were singing this song about we love our crossing guard, and just about everyone really loves, you know, their crossing guard, Giselle. So she'll be really missed when she leaves the area. So I also, actually before that, I just wanted to also note that I have, this year, for some reason, I have lost quite a few, I've had a few deaths in my life, especially students as well as parents and even staff members. So, you know, as a community, we've gone through a lot of loss, and even personally, I lost my favorite uncle. And, you know, it has been a year of loss, but there were a lot of great things and events that occurred throughout the year, and look to celebrate them. And I'd just like to wish everyone a safe summer until we meet again in August. And for those that are still working, just remember to be safe and drive carefully. And remember to take some time to take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Trustee Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Without reiterating other trustees' comment, I would just like to thank, without identifying a particular group, thank all the staff in Peel, senior staff, down to the custodial staff here, because your contribution to this board and its success, student success, is second to none throughout the province. And let me say that to my colleagues, I want to thank each and every one of you for your service to the board and to the community. We sometimes have differences of opinion, and we express them. And I listened to a speaker some time ago at a conference, and she says, even in a marriage, if both people, wife and husband, agree on everything, then one is unnecessary. So we do have our differences, but we're always able to resolve those differences and come to a consensus on what is best for our students. So I want to thank each and every one of you for your contribution. We are in a good place, and I hope we continue to be in that good place that we have been over the years since the inception of the Peel District School Board. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Singh.
I too just want to thank staff, and I want to say have a good summer. And spend time with your loved ones, and just enjoy the time off. It's been a active year. It's been an active term. We've dealt with some particularly colorful issues, so it's been a learning experience, and I also, as many trustees know, am not also returning for my terms, after my term, sorry. So, I just want to say it was an honor to work with everybody. I thoroughly enjoyed this role. I think it was one of the best things I ever did in my life. I have no regrets. And thank you for being a part of that.
Thank you. Trustee Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Over the last 15 years, I believe that as a board, past and present, we have dealt with some really tough issues and some challenges that challenge us to to do more and to do better. But this year has been a very challenging year and a tough year for us as trustees. I don't know why, and maybe I know why, but again, I want to say thank you to the man above, my God, who have given me the strength to overcome these challenges and able to continue supporting and having impact and the people that I serve in my community. I really want to thank my colleagues, even at times some of us, and everybody know me that I'm the loudmouth and that I'm not afraid to shoot off when I'm ready for the right reasons. But I want to say to you, I appreciate you, and it's a privilege and a joy to work with you, and to the staff, and from the director's office down to the associate director, superintendent, to my schools and the staff out on the front line, and to my family that continue electing me year after year for their confidence and their belief in me. I want to thank you very much. And, I have some superintendent, and sometimes we agree and sometimes we disagree, but I believe that, I have some of the best superintendent, and, even I want to recognize Mr. Demir for, he's not in my superintendency. I'm not underneath the superintendency. We don't work together that way, but we do other work outside of his role to impact the life of young people. And I really appreciate that and your passion, for supporting especially at-risk kids. And my superintendent, you know who you are. I'm not going to call him name, and I don't want to get anybody jealous tonight, but I want to thank you for being there when I call, and you're firing back at me, so quickly. Really say thank you very much, and and for the confidence that this board has put in me to allow me to represent this board at the various level of of committee outside of the board and even at the Ontario School Board level. I also want to thank those parents, such as Mr. Taylor, who challenged me with his math issue, because you know something, I'll say this, that it is those challenges that help me to climb higher and to do better. So thank you for the challenge. Really appreciate that. And, you know, just to say to you all to have a great summer, enjoy yourself, relax, get some rest, and I look forward, if God's will, to see you in September. Thank you.
Trustee B. McDonald.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll try not to echo all the same comments. Could be here a while, but last but not least, I am very proud to be a trustee of this fabulous board. I've traveled the globe while as a trustee. I've lived outside the country. I've traveled the country. And I've talked to so many people about education, and especially when people ask me, what's that smiling P on your lapel? And I proudly can say that I am a school trustee, and I'm here to support kids navigate our system and help parents navigate to reach their potential. And, you know, I am so happy to be in a board from custodian all the way to the director and everyone in between that hold kids to the highest and focus on allowing our kids to be the best they can be. I can't remember the person in Ontario who made the quote, but, you know, education is the equalizer in a country, that everyone can come in here no matter what culture or economic or whatever kind of group, they all get the same education. And that's what I truly believe as, which I've seen traveling this world. I have to thank everyone, but especially my superintendent, Nina. You make my job better. If it wasn't for you, I would have a lot more work, and thank you so much. And I like how we've always, as a functioning administration group, we work as a team. We're not adversaries. We're here to solve the problems. We come with different perspectives, but the goal is what is best for children, and that's a fantastic thing. The best part of being a trustee for me starts on Thursday, graduation.
Oh, yes.
And I am looking so forward to that. This is where everyone is smiling, and I do my first grade 5, which is the first grad, and maybe kindergarten is sometimes considered first, and then I work my way to middle school and then high school. And, you know, I just had my son who graduated university, so I've now gone the whole gambit from, you know, kindergarten to university, and it is such a proud moment, and I love sharing that with parents. So to colleagues, I hope you have a great summer. Janet, I'd like to thank you for the courageous work you do as a chair. It's not easy, but you do it very well and allow us to do our job effectively. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Well, that's everybody. I want to thank Janice and Nicole as well. Certainly Bill. Bill, you awake? There you go. There. Who are here for every meeting and encouraging. There we go with a smile on our faces. But thank you for your work as well, Janice and Nicole. We appreciate it, and you are a huge support to the trustees of this board to allow us to do what we do. So thank you. So I know that when I look in the audience, I know I'm going to public question period, and I realize that there are some people, but there's some candidates, some teacher candidates with us tonight, aren't there? Is that true? I don't know how you stand out in the crowd, but obviously you do. So what faculty are you with? At U of T? UOIT, okay, all right. And so you picked the short straw and got the last meeting of the board, didn't you? But welcome, and you've picked a great profession, and Peel is always looking for teachers. We're still hiring and always have, and if you've waited this long, so if you have any questions with regard to anything that you have witnessed tonight, the Director Joshua, and I, after the meeting, if you're still want, we will come and answer any of the questions that you might have. We can always be reached by email as well, if indeed you want to understand the proceedings. But thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing teaching. Question period. And yes, Mrs. Soplet, okay. Yeah, you're using that mic tonight.
Okay.
There.
Thank you, and through you, I would just simply like to ask if I could say thank you.
Sure, you can ask if you can say thank you.
Because I have to say thank you for the endorsement of the Peel Youth Charter. I know that when the campaign began in October, we had no idea what the change was going to look like, but we knew that change was coming. And now we know that they know the change that came, that we actually haven't changed at all. The core values are about safety, health, education, and future jobs for youth. All of the candidates in the provincial election had this document given to them. Almost none of them read it, but that's okay because everybody signed it and we got some press. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice summer, Mrs. Soplet. Any other questions from the public? Yes, certainly. Come forward. And the lady that's standing now, you're next. Yes, you're first. Yes, I'm sorry.
Good night, Madam Chair and esteemed board members. My name is Nicole Brooks, and I gave a delegation on the 22nd of May, and I was standing by really wanting to get the written response from the board before coming. And seeing that I'm a newbie at this, I sort of compared the answers to my delegation that I wrote out. And I realized that I asked some pretty heavy questions, 7, in fact. I didn't number them in the report. But what I noticed when I compared is that really only 2 were answered out of the 7. And I did ask what the protocol was, understanding that the bylaws do dictate that you're not allowed to re-delegate on the same topic. So I won't take much of your time, but I did want to pose and highlight very quickly what was answered and what wasn't. And knowing that we're at the end, and this is the last meeting, I understand that it may spill over into the new term.
Right.
The first question I asked was what were the milestones of We Rise Together in links? That was wonderfully answered. There were highlights given, and I saw that points were uploaded throughout the time of the delegation and given, so that was really exciting to see. My second question was, what was the reporting system of success? None was given along with the highlights, but I did notice that it was noted that $420,000 has been spent on the initiative We Rise. So my question would then be, how much was directly given or affected for the boys of this program, and was the impact noted? The third question I asked was, what were the different resources for children and parents to access? Beyond principals, superintendents, where did we go? That wasn't answered at all, though I do know through other parents that certain questions were answered on that. I think one of the most important ones where I asked about policies relating to regulating teachers, and I will add that it was to include principals. In my original delegation, I stated that I have been compliant and I had been working with the principal and the vice principal in the case of my son, but no conclusion has concluded for him. And the response in the delegation was, from the board, is to go to the principal to resolve. And there was no indication on how recommended policies could be considered by the board. I'm new, so I apologize if it is in the bylaws. My fifth question, it was asking about staff, which was sort of answered here today, and assigning full implementation of the program. 6, what are the consequences to severe instances, and how will they be executed? That was not answered. And 7, what support system is put in place for immediate assistance, and that wasn't answered. So I wanted to sincerely ask Madam Chair and to the esteemed board for direction, as I am a newly committed parent through the We Rise program, And I'm determined to learn the ropes and do it in the proper way, so to speak, and work with the board in serving and saving our Black boys in our system, and to prove to not only our board but to the country what this kind of program can do. And the last thing that I would say is I do have to say I was a bit unsettled today in what has happened and what I've heard. As a professional artist, I've spent the better part of 20 years begging people to understand that representation matters, that seeing yourselves, either if it's on screen, on stage, in schools, in books, in anything, is so important. And I realize that my fight has to continue here to implore you guys to understand that it was really, really important for our boys to see their representation through their teachers, through the staff, and through everything. Please think about that over the summer, and do know that I'm committed to work with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm assuming, if I can, that we still have that script or the written presentation that you.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sure you handed it in. Did you?
Yes, ma'am. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy to, because I didn't number them, so perhaps.
No, it's all right.
it
We
was a
don't need
long
numbers.
dissertation, So I'm happy to resubmit my Coles Note version.
You want to meet with him? If you want. Okay, so the director has suggested that he would like to meet with you and the associate directors, and I think that would be the quickest way to answer some of those questions that you believe have not been answered.
Yes, Madam Chair. May I ask how that can happen? Do I write to them?
No, I think I'll ask our director to reach out to you.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And thank you again. Have a wonderful summer, trustees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. It's my first time coming up here. I'm nervous, but I couldn't sit any longer. I stayed all the way to the end to come up and speak to the trustees. Thank you for the work that you've been doing. Thank you to the superintendent for the work that you've been doing. I'm going to read, I think I have 10 minutes.
No, this is question period, but
Okay.
so.
I have a question, and my question is for the board. What is the action plan for the anti-Black racism training, not only for educators, but for superintendents and for trustees? Where are we on that process, and is the board thinking of implementing that training starting from the top?
So that is a long answer, but I know that we can answer that and that there is obviously a plan. Could I ask that you leave us your contact information, and I will ask either the director or Associate Director Graywall, who is supervising or heading up the area of equity, and she will be able to tell you about the plan and about where we are with the training and what our future plan is.
Okay. And I wanted to recommend this book actually to the board, to Peter, Joshua, for the staff. I'm not sure how it works. It's called Deep Diversity. It's a new book that just came out. I'm recommending that the book be, that the principals, I don't know how it works, purchase the book, and it becomes a book conversation within the schools. I'm going to read something here. It says, enhancing diversity, inclusion and equity requires both learning and unlearning about others and ourselves. It requires developing more psychological, sophisticated strategies to advance diversity and inclusion. In short, it requires us to break generations of bad racial habits and nurture good ones. Unless we understand the roles played by both hardware and software components in our mental processes, fairness and justice will always be threatened in our personal, professional, and community lives. I believe I sat through the meeting today, and, you know, Kathy raised the question about hiring Black teachers, and it is a need in Peel District School Board, just like it's a need in Durham District School Board, and I'm inviting everyone to go on CBC, the news, just type it in, you will see the process that Durham, the steps that Durham has taken to start that process. Another question I have is both Durham and Peel District School Board both report to the Ministry of Education. They follow the same policies and procedures. What's the difference between Durham implementing going forward and implementing a strategy to hire Black students, and why can't Peel do that? They both report to the Ministry of Education. So maybe in August, when I come back, that question can be addressed as if why we cannot follow the same procedures. When I came here, my first board meeting I came here and was the flag raising of LGBT community, and I mentioned Janet?
Yes.
You mentioned that policies can be changed.
Yes.
You mentioned the flag policy can be changed and adjusted.
Yes.
I am asking that you guys consider changing some policies in Peel District School Board, just like you considered other requests, and look at the data. There's been 40 years of research. It's not hard to find 40 years of research on Black students. And the reason why I can't speak for Kathy, but I can speak for myself, I'm passionate about our Black students because when I turn on the TV, I see a lot of Black youth either in jail or getting arrested. And when you look at the research, a lot of the research comes back to the boys are not feeling engaged in the school system. So I heard the comment said that we need to do better. I'm asking Peel to please consider doing better.
Thank you. So can I ask, I didn't ask or you didn't identify yourself,
Antoinette.
but would you mind going over to Nicole or Janice, and would you mind giving them your contact information, your email, and or text, whichever, and then I will ensure that Associate Director Graywall gets in touch with you and answers the question around the anti-Black, anti-racist.
Anti-Black
Yeah,
racism
that one. It's a late day.
Yes.
That she makes you aware of our plan. Oh, and Director Joshua wants to comment. Do it again. Yep.
Through you, Chair, just want to thank you very much for the reference to deep diversity. I believe that's the Shakil Chowdhury book. I have personally read it, and members of our team have also received the book. Really encouraged by your comments around some deeper study of that book. We are engaging in that process, so thank you for the nod.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, come forward. Mr. Ilya Madden.
You try my name, but you never get it right. Well,
Ilya Madden. Okay, tell me what it is.
It's Ilya Madden.
Ilya Madden. Correct? Not quite.
Good enough.
Okay. All right.
So good evening, everyone. My question is in three parts and it's observational. Just like everybody else, I've been here this evening and I've heard a lot that has been said, particularly by you, Madam Chair. And the first part of the question is, how can the We Rise Together program succeed when the chair of the board doesn't recognize that it is a Section 14 Ontario Human Rights Code equity program in itself, thereby denigrating the whole program? And the second... No, sorry, it's one question but three parts. Can I finish them, please?
I guess so. I'll have to remember what they are, but okay.
I can remind you. How can the self-serving and regressive and racist opinion of the chair not impact the way the board sees those of us who are seeking equity?
Okay.
And last but not the least, like the last speaker, how much anti-racism training has the board really taken on board? And can the public see the learning objectives?
So you two want a summary of our anti-Black racism training plan. Who has taken part of it, some of it, all of it, and what the future plan is? Do I understand that correctly?
I'm just interested in what the board...
The board, are you talking about the trustees, or are you talking?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to know what training the trustees have had so far?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'll make sure that you get, we have had one session, but I will make sure that.
The whole year?
The whole year, we had one session. Right.
And lastly but not least, Kathy McDonald, I really appreciate what you do and how you fight, because, sitting in the midst of racism and anti-black racism is very difficult. I know it's eye-rolling when people see us talking about this. When people say things are aggressive and self-serving, they're not, the white fragility that comes with that statement and the privilege is really unnerving. And that we're actually talking about this in 2018 just shows that we haven't really gone far. But for the work that you do and how you do it, we really appreciate you, and we want you to please
Yeah,
continue.
okay. I want to answer your questions, if I might, because it's obviously you are accusing me of something.
I didn't accuse you. I just said what.
Okay.
I repeated what you said.
You need to understand. You need to understand what happened here tonight.
I do understand.
Good. I gave up the chair, and I became a trustee who has every right to their opinion and to represent wards 1 and 7
Your
in
opinions,
Mississauga.
when it infringes on our rights, your opinion,
Sir?
you have a right to your opinion, but when it infringes on our rights, we need to check you.
And, okay, people are okay. I don't accept that. I followed proper procedure. I was not the chair of the board when I gave my opinion. That is why we have bylaws and rules, so that the chair of the board, who is elected and has the same responsibilities as every other trustee at this table, has an opportunity to give their opinion. And as last time I checked, free speech was part of a democracy. And so I have every right to my opinion as anyone else around this table. And I did not speak as the chair. I spoke as the trustee for wards 1 and 7 in Mississauga. So you need to understand that you can't call me the chair when I relinquished that.
That's semantics. And you
It
know
is not semantics.
Janet, it's semantics,
Okay.
and you know
All
it.
right, we're done. And
Yes, we are done.
and I'm not.
You know what? I hope, I wish you well in your retirement, because we need another chair of the board.
Thank you very much. I really most importantly, it is all about respect. And I don't think I've received much, but I think I'm entitled to my opinion. Well, there you go. So, are there any other questions from the public? I see none. Would someone move adoption of the in-committee report? Trustee Green, seconded by Trustee Williams. All those in favor? Carried. And adjournment. Trustee Cameron. Trustee Green. All those in favor? It's carried. It's summer.